Good morning, Year 7, or afternoon, or evening, whenever you're watching this. Today, we are going to discuss presentations, because you're going to have to do one for me at the end of the week, and I want it to be a good presentation. So I'm going to take you through the success criteria of what makes a good presentation. I'll follow three things: delivery, body language, and content. And before we go, we'll have a quick chat about what makes a good audience as well. Okay, so what I'll be looking for you to do is make sure you write these things down in your exercise book so that I know you've watched this. Okay, coming up first, I think we'll do body language. Okay, stay tuned. So, speech success criteria. What do we need to do to make sure we have a good speech? Well, body language is the most important thing. This guy, Martin Luther King, he knew all about how to present a good speech. And he understood that body language was vital. Let's start with eye contact. Now I'm looking at you almost straight at the screen, trying to make sure that you're engaged with me. If I spend the entire video like this, just staring down at the floor, A, you wouldn't be able to hear me as well, and B, you would think I was really weird. What about if I spend an entire presentation looking at my notes? What if I spent the entire presentation like this? That wouldn't be very good, would it? Eye contact is essential. We must make sure we're looking at our audience, okay? The audience is sitting over that side of the room, the audience is sat over that side of the room, and of course the people sat straight in front of me. We must make sure that we are looking at them, okay? The next thing, stand up straight. Everybody wants you to stand up straight. You look confident when you stand up straight. If you're kind of slumped like this, people think you don't have anything interesting to say. You look bored. You look bored before you even start. And nobody's going to enjoy a boring speech. If the speaker's bored, then certainly the audience will be bored. So stand up straight. Be as tall as you can be. That's really important. Lean forward. Now I'm saying stand up straight, but it's okay to make a gesture to move forward slightly. Because as you can see, I'm getting closer to the screen when I lean forward. It looks like I'm interested. It looks like I'm interested in you, and it looks like I'm interested in what I'm saying. So leaning forward is probably a really good idea. Okay? The next one, fidgeting. There's nothing worse than a speaker that spends their entire time messing around with things, constantly, pulling at their shirts or sort of moving from toe to toe like this. How can you concentrate on what I'm saying if I'm moving around so much? Okay? Make sure that your body basically stays planted fairly strongly. Okay? We're going to deal with what we do with our hands in a second, but make sure that you don't fidget. Take your hands out of your pockets. Okay? If your hands are in your pockets, you might be tempted to mess about with any money that you've got in there, and it's not a good look. Okay? The third one, though, is hand gestures. Hand gestures. Now, if you want to be really sure about something, if you want to really commit to something, then we use our hands. I talk with my hands all the time. I do this a lot. You've probably seen that. Okay? But I also use my hands to demonstrate. Okay? If I'm angry about something, I sometimes put my hands in the air. Okay? And wave them like I just don't care. Sometimes I'm like this. I'm just like, what's that all about? Why are you doing that? Okay? I use hand gestures consistently to try and engage the audience. And you should too. And lastly, look across the whole class. Already mentioned that one. Make sure that the people on that side of the room and on that side of the room are listening. You might be able to hear something outside the door. Sorry about that. On to delivery now. This guy, Barack Obama, he knows how to deliver a speech. In fact, it may well be said that he might be the greatest speech maker in the English language at the moment. Not in history, but certainly alive today. There are few better than Barack Obama at giving a speech. And do you know why? He has mastered the pause. Knowing how to pause and wait for an audience to engage with them, he's the master of it. If you can pause, then the audience are waiting for you to speak, and so they're on the edge of their seats. Now, I'm not saying pause for like a minute and a half, but just a couple of seconds. Get your breath back. Pause. The audience are engaged. Vary your tone of voice. Imagine if I gave an entire speech where I just spoke like this for 5 minutes. This is the only way that I ever spoke when I taught you. How fun would that be? I sound like a robot. It wouldn't be very much fun. The entire joy of speaking with other people is watching their emotions as they get more excited and their voices get higher because they're more excited, and then also get slower and sadder when they're thinking about more difficult things. Varying the tone of our voices is part of what makes us human, so we should try and do that as much as we can. Speak with passion. I'm going to be asking you about healthy living. You need to be passionate about healthy living. We all want to be healthy. It's the point of health week after all. So we want to be passionate about it, which means putting emotion into our voices. Okay? We must do that. We must speak with clarity too. What does that mean? That might be one for your vocabulary books. I might look at your books and see whether you included it, whether you went and looked it up. To speak with clarity means to be clear, to make sure that every word you say can be understood by the person in the back of the room and the person at the front of the room. It means don't speak really quickly so no one can tell what you're saying. Also means don't mumble through your mouth, keeping your mouth like that. It means speaking clearly, okay? And volume. No one wants you to shout, but no one wants you to whisper either. Because when you whisper, no one can understand what you're saying. And the whole point of the presentation is for people to understand what you are saying. Okay, so please make sure that you speak with good volume, with a clear voice, with passion. You vary the tone of your voice to suit whatever mood you're doing, and also that you pause. Pause where there's a full stop. That's what they're there for after all. Okay, we'll move on to content next. This is an inspiring girl who has given speeches all over the world, in fact. Okay, about her right to an education. Malala, somebody that you should look up if you don't know her already. She's the master of content. She knows that she's speaking about a subject that's passionate to her, so she makes sure she's got good content in her presentations so that people will listen. Okay? And what does good content mean? It means be detailed. Okay? Explain yourself fully. That word because that we've talked about before in classes, use that word so you're explaining yourself in detail, okay? Use clear sentences. If they're all disjointed and muddled up and you haven't really thought through what you're going to say, people will get confused listening, okay? Visual aids to help the audience. We're going to have a little segment about visual aids just in a second because people use it a lot. And the other thing is, make your stories come to life or make your speeches come to life. Put imagery in it. The odd metaphor or simile can make your speech, your presentation, really engaging and really interesting. So please, make sure you have some imagery in there too if you can. Okay? Those things will make your content so much better. Okay? Just a quick mention of visual aids now. Here we have two visual aids. You're going to be asked to come up and speak about your posters. You're going to have to show these posters at the front of the class. Here's one here, healthy living poster. Look at it, tiny writing, no one can read it. You might as well not be there. No one can see what it says anyway. Okay? Compare it with this one. Now it's a bit rolled up, so you can't necessarily read it as well as it would be when it was first made. But this was one of the best visual aids anyone's ever done for me. Do you know why? Because it's colourful, it's artistic, there's lots of different styles on there. But at the same time, this is all about persuasive techniques. Okay, persuasive techniques, and everything is clear. You can see everything really clearly. Even if you're at the back of the room, people can see that says links. It's really obvious. Okay, the list of 3. All this stuff is so open so that everyone can see it. That, people, if I ask you to hold up a poster in front of the class, that's what it should look like. If I see something that looks like this, you might as well not bring the poster up in the first place. Okay? Colourful, bright, not too busy, doesn't have too much in it, but it's just really quite artistically done. Someone's clearly spent a lot of time on this. Okay? And that's what I want to see from your poster. Okay? So, finally, quality audience. There's no point in having a great presentation if the audience is going to be really annoying. And at any particular moment, there's going to be more of you in the audience than there will be up here doing the presentation. So I want to make sure that you're going to be a quality audience for everyone else that's presenting. Sometimes when you look out across an audience, it can be really upsetting. You're up here and you're quite nervous, and then all of a sudden you're looking out and you see people like this, okay? Or you see them like this, or you see them like this. Clearly, that's not a good audience, is it? That's not somebody who is making the speaker feel like they're engaged, okay? So what I want to see from you is up behind me on the screen. I want to see you watch each speech. Watch it, okay? You might have heard something similar before. You might have said something similar before, but they still deserve your attention, okay? Look interested, okay? You can have your hand on your chin. I'm not going to stop you do that. But make sure that you're leaned forward on the desk and you're watching the speaker as they do it. I would prefer if you were slightly leaned forward, okay? Not obviously, we don't want you to be scaring anyone, but make sure you're leaning forward and you're actually engaged with what's being done, okay? Make no noise. The worst thing about this school, to be honest, in my opinion, is that when anybody moves their chair, you hear this. That's horrible, isn't it? And imagine you're giving a speech and you're quite nervous and then you hear that noise. It's just going to put you off completely, isn't it? I also don't see you want to be messing around. Can you hear that? Can you hear me messing with a piece of paper? That's not good, is it? That's not going to make someone feel more comfortable when they're giving their speech. So please, no fidgeting either, okay? Every speaker, no matter how good or bad you think they were, they deserve a round of applause. The round of applause is not for the quality of the speech, but for the bravery and courage to go up there and give the speech in the first place, because it's quite nerve-wracking, okay? And lastly, okay, if I ask at the end who gave a good speech, what was good about their speech, then what I want to hear from you is positive, constructive criticism, okay? We can only improve if we know where we went wrong, but at the same time, there's no need to be nasty about it. We should be supportive and constructive, all right? So, that's the end of the presentation, everybody. We're done. So all I need from you is for you to note down, maybe watch this video again, and note down what were the success criteria for giving a good presentation. But I don't just want you to note them down, I want you to think about them. And as we're talking about our presentation, and as we're preparing for our presentation, I want to make sure that you guys are thinking about the things that make a quality presentation. Okay? What word should we have at the end of? We'll have Liverpool. Write the word Liverpool in your exercise books to show you've watched it till now, the bitter end. Okay? Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.